The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Saki, one of the sales engineers at Milsa Data. Welcome to our virtual product launch webinar featuring our new Listware for Excel, an easy-to-use Excel add-in that cleans and enriches your customer contact data. During today's webinar, our data quality analyst, Tim Sider, will highlight Listware for Excel's capabilities, such as how it corrects and updates name, address, phone, and email information, and appends missing contact data to complete your customer records. Tim will also walk you through a live demo and showcase actual implementation examples. But before we begin, just to let you know, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to type in your questions through the webinar interface. Okay, let's start with the presentation. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Taki, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, an introduction to Listware for Excel. First, a bit of background information. Milsa Data has been in the data quality industry for over 28 years. We specialize in data quality solutions for everyone, from developers to database administrators, and from enterprises to small list processors. We offer free trials as well as a 120-day return on investment guarantee. This means if our tools do not pay for themselves, you can return it for a full refund. Our products and services are provided in many forms, providing a solution for everyone, regardless of your implementation resources. They include developer tools, out-of-the-box software solutions for non-programmers. We have a data enhancement department that will receive and process your files quickly, as well as customized mailing lists. We are an international company. We're located primarily in the United States, but recently have opened offices in Europe and in Asia. Our customers come from a large range of industries, from government agencies to insurance companies, and they range from large enterprises to small nonprofit businesses. Now let's move on to Listware for Excel, an introduction to our newest data quality solution. Today, focusing on US Check and Verify. Stepping back for a second, a problem many, if not most, or all organizations encounter is the problem of outdated, inconsistent, incomplete, or mismatched data. With Listware, we will allow you to address these problems via an easy-to-use interface. This Excel component will validate, verify, update stale or old data, identify inconsistent or mismatched data elements, and resolve or append incomplete data. Now, underneath the hood, Listware uses our Personator web service. This is a full contact solution, meaning that instead of verifying an address by itself or just a phone number by itself, we take the contact name, address, telephone, and email and verify them as a single valid entity or contact. Listware is backed by a full comprehensive set of data sources, from consumer data to credit, telephone, and business data, as well as other types. And we've combined them all together with historical sets to provide a master data contact backend to drive this product. Okay, now let's cover some of the specifics on the functionality of Listware. It has four main functionalities, or cleansing operations as we call them. Check will verify the individual contact data pieces. For example, it'll verify and correct the address or verify and correct the phone, but it does not correlate the two together. This is what our current products, our Web Smart services, already do. This is what sets Listware apart from these. Verify will show you if any of the data pieces match one another. For example, it will tell you if the name matches the address or the phone matches the address and they're the same contact. Move will update a contact to their most current address. And lastly, append actions will add missing information to your contact data records. Okay, we'll go over a few of the examples or functionalities. Check will individually standardize or correct the address, name, phone, or email. So it'll parse and genderize names and also detect companies, nuisance names, and vulgar names. For addresses, we'll validate to the DPV level, and with an added company or a name, Suite Finder Address Plus will resolve suites or append suites. A new feature to Listware is the advanced address correction. This goes beyond regular address validation and allows us to correct the house number with that company and name. This is something we have not been able to do in the past with our previous products. We can also detect vacant addresses and apply rooftop precision latitude and longitude for these verified addresses. And we can also validate and format phones and addresses. An example, we verify and standardize good addresses. As you can see here, some of the address has been standardized, the phone has been standardized, and email syntax corrected. If a contact has a bad address, we do not verify it, or validate it, I should say, and leave it as is. An example of advanced address correction. Normally, if we had an address with an incorrect house number, we could not correct it because it could have been any building or street number in that range. Now with our multi-sources back-end data, we can use the name or company to find the right house or building number. Verify. Verify will tell you if one of those contact data pieces matches another contact data piece. And that gives you the confidence that a record is indeed real or not fraudulent, that the address belongs to that name or phone or email. An example here is pushing these data pieces against each other. We can see that the top example, we have an address and phone match, and we have an address and business or organization match. And we return the respective verify codes. The example on the bottom, we cannot verify that that address belongs to that company or that phone number or that email address. So therefore, we return no verify codes. The Listware Move feature allows you to move your contact record from an old, outdated address to a current new address. We use multiple historical data sets, and therefore we can find multiple moves. Example of a move update is where a business perhaps is moved from an old location to a new location. And lastly, the append features. This will add missing information to your data list. Some of the examples are appending the name from an address, appending the phone from the name and address, currently not available but coming soon, appending an email based on the name and address. And there's also the ability to append an address based on a name, a combination of name and phone, name or email. In this example, we use a valid company and address that I've verified, and therefore our data can append a matching phone number to that record. Okay, why use Listware? Listware is easy to install, deploy, and keep up to date with a variety of resources. A wizard-style installer will get you up and running in minutes. Since this is a web service, underneath there are no data files or libraries to maintain. You simply open up Excel, open up your table, few configurations, and process. And there are many links to the resource, automatic updates, documentation, and call for tech support. It would also be used by perhaps customers who are doing smaller jobs, small data ranges, like nonprofit organizations or consumers who just want to process smaller data sets or may just want to use the service less frequently, and therefore may have configurations that vary from list to list, but easy to implement. The pricing is also flexible. We have a new pay-as-you-go credit system that reduces prepayment for services you may never use or use in the long term. And you can also set up an automatic rebilling option where you're consuming and purchasing just the number of credits you need to process a job. Also nice is a formatted output, and that provides easy analysis after the job is done. And that is returned to you via cell style, colors, and visual descriptions. And then makes it easily to visualize and navigate the output results that we return to you. Also currently available is the Listware for Excel Global Check and Verify component. And that'll check global addresses in over 240 countries, and for those standardized and verified addresses, apply geographic coordinates, and will be an upcoming topic in our product webinar series. Also in development is a Listware version of our flagship deduping engine, Matchup. That allows you to determine whether records in your database are indeed the same contact according to the criteria you apply. And what's nice about that, we return a link group identifier to help you identify which records actually matched. It's easy to get started. If you go to our website or call our toll-free number and contact a sales rep, you can easily get started with a download and 1,000 free credits. And now we'll move on to a short demo of the product. As you can see, I have a small database available with some contact records, and we're going to verify and run these through Listware. You'll notice that after installation, you see from the Excel menu on the Listware ribbon, we have US Check and Verify. And by selecting that, it brings up a slight wizard configuration which we're going to go through. So the first thing I'll do is select the range of data that I want to process. This can be an entire sheet or just a small range within your sheet. And I select that's the data that I want to process. Upon doing that, you'll see that the Excel Listware plugin now identifies the workbook, the sheet, and the range of cells that I want to process. Selecting Next will tell Listware what cleansing operations we want to apply to this data range. Do we want to check names or check and verify names and addresses? For this particular example, we're also going to check for any moves and append any missing information where it can be applied. On this particular screen, you'll also notice your licensed user's current credit balance is returned. And for the operations that we want to apply to this particular range, it'll tell me approximately how many credits it's going to require to process those operations for that many records. So say, for example, I uncheck one of the operations. You'll notice that my estimated usage may be less, and that's because for some of the operations, like check and verify, we consume a credit for every record processed. But for some of the other operations, move, append, and applying geo, you'll see that we consume credits only on successful return data or appended data. Okay, moving along to the next tab, we have to specify in our range that we've selected, what are the respective columns of the data types we're going to check and verify. And the plugin does a pretty nice job of recognizing default field names that probably will exist in your first row. If you have a sheet that does not have column headers or column headers that are not standard, it will ask you with a pop-up dialog, do you want to use a conventional cell style recognition, or do you want to apply for a first row? Now that we've specified the input columns that we want to apply our operations, we have to specify what do we want the component and the web service to return to us. You'll notice in this particular example, there are some parse name options available, but I'm just going to have returned a full name. No name to, although it will identify if we have two names. I'm going to return some address information, and I'm going to append geo, latitude, longitude, phone, and email where applicable. Okay, the last screen before we process is just kind of review settings. It tells you, again for review, the range we want to process, the options or cleansing operations that we want to apply to that data. Do we have enough credits? And you'll notice there the links. You can go directly to our website if you don't think you have enough credits to process this particular job, and we're ready to process. I'll be prompted to save the sheet, and it's strongly recommended once the process starts, you do not edit another sheet in Excel or in any way or form try to edit another sheet, open another sheet. Remember, this is a web service. It's sending this data to our servers and returning the information back. Being a relatively small data set, this happens very quickly, and as you can see, I've got a nice summary returned to me when the process is done. Basically, it's telling me the operations that I've just performed and how many successful moves, appended geolocations to the rooftop level, and appended names, companies, addresses, and phones. Those successful appends consume credits, and therefore the actual credit consumption that this particular run used. Now moving on to the results. You can see towards the right, we have another summary of the number of records and the percentages of records returned and what was found out about those records. Notice as I start to scroll horizontally that this information was returned and appended as columns to your Excel sheet arrange. For example, we've checked, verified names and addresses, and you'll notice in our name column, we give you the output disposition of some of the found names that these sample records had. Some of these names were flagged as being nuisance names or suspicious, and some were actually not names, but indeed companies detected. An example of a valid name, and that's returned in a result code to tell us that it was a valid name. Also in our name column, we see, since we were choosing to append names or fill in the blanks, that we have a few names that were appended due to the fact that we had other valid information, name, phone number, email address, and using that valid information, we were able to append a name attached to that record in our data sources. Our address information will tell us if an address is valid and what the reasons are if it was not valid. In other words, if it returned an error code. As the example right here, it did not have a complete address, so minimal address requirements were not met, and therefore we return error code and some nice cell information there. Some of the other addresses were appended, had a suite appended to it, were verified, standardized, and a few instances we were even able to detect for a few records that there was a successful move appended to this record. So we have a new address appended to some of these records. Again, if we verify addresses, we're able to, in a lot of cases, apply geocoding to the rooftop level, and that's returned here. For an unverified address, we can still apply the geocoding to the zip5 level. Moving right along, we have a few records where, since we verified a company at an address, we can also apply a phone number or append a phone number, and we can verify and append emails also. In some regards, phones the syntax will be changed and standardized, as well as emails where the syntax is corrected. Now, this is one of the nice things about Listware for Excel. We see all these visual cues, whether it's color or cell styles and little pop-ups, but really all that correlates to the results columns. And the result columns are useful in all our products, but also in Listware for Excel, that if you're not going to apply colors or you're going to export to your database system, you're going to use these result codes that tell you in a concatenated string of result codes all the different changes we applied to that record. So they correlate to the colors and to the cell styles. So we previously saw there was an append. We can see that in a result code here. If we've looked at briefly at the output and we want to thumb through or toggle through our records, there's a review panel, and that allows us to navigate through our database if we're looking for certain types of errors. Maybe we have a much larger list and we just want to toggle through errors, not necessarily every record. And that allows you to, in a nice form, see the input address, the output disposition, and you can, even if you can apply a common change that you know is wrong, you can rescan the record. So very easy to use. This is a very small database, but we can see that it can easily return, check, verify, and append information. Very easy to analyze that information. Okay, so this concludes our live demo. So visit our website or call our sales department to get started with a free trial.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you all for joining us today.